Okay, then I'm going to react to the classic Matthew Perry debates Peter Hitchens. I think it's on addiction.
Is the actor and former addict Matthew Perry, the journalist Peter Hitchens.
Did you hear that? Like, actor and former addict. That didn't age well. And the way some people look at addiction, like, you can't be a former addict. So it's interesting that he said that. Let's just start again.
Is the actor and former addict Matthew Perry, the journalist Peter Hitchens, and Baroness Meacher, who chairs the UK All-Party Parliamentary Group on Drug Policy Reform. Why do you have such faith in drug courts?
Well, that's kind of an easy question to answer. I see that...
Like, I don't know what drug courts are, but I guess it's like a way to, like, bypass criminalizing usage and ownership of, like, a controlled substance that's for personal use. I guess that's what it is. Kind of to avoid people going into jail, maybe.
They work. I see that I've been involved with them for about 4 years, and a little over 4 years, and people that go through drug court have a 55% less chance of seeing handcuffs ever again.
How do you know that these people wouldn't have quit their drug habit anyway?
Well,
this is true. Like, some people just actually quit anyway. It's a thing. It's called, like, spontaneous whatever. Like, people just one day wake up, I've fucking seen it, and go, you know what? I'm not doing it ever again, and they just stop. With many drugs. And also I've seen people that have gone in the clinker and just given up there because they've seen, like, if they are going to keep using in prison, particularly in certain countries, like, they're going to die. Like, it's just 100%. So they're just like, you know what, this is my chance to stay alive, and they've had to stop. And yeah, and I guess some people obviously stop with this drug court thing.
that gets into a bigger question of whether these people are addicts or not. You know what I mean? If they're drug addicts and alcoholics, then they're going to keep going until something stops them. And drug court is a wonderful way to interrupt that process. And it's
yeah. So drug court, I'm guessing that involves the law. So yeah, like, whether it works or not, right? Locking people up doesn't work either. If it doesn't work, locking people up doesn't work, or doesn't work any better, I don't think. So, like, why lock people up? That's what I'm thinking. Like, if someone's just taking drugs themselves and locking them up, it can help. Like, it helped with the person I'm talking about, but he had, like, a long sentence for something else, right? I don't think locking people up is going to be any better than therapy or whatever this drug court is.
it's a way to not throw these people away. So it takes first-time non-violent drug offenders, and instead of throwing them into prison, it puts them into a 18-month to 2-year program.
Like, you got to define, like, non-violent drug offenders. I think it might be a bit different if they're, like, bringing in fucking kilos. Like, that might be non-violent, but they're bringing in a lot of shit or whatever, you know? That's a bit different from busting someone because they've got a couple of grams on them, you know?
What's not to like about it?
Well, the evidence in favour of them is pretty scanty. There haven't been many serious studies. I think one in Baltimore, one in Arizona, and one somewhere else in the United States. And they tend to suggest that over the long term, then they don't make much difference anyway. And the selection...
Okay, so they don't make much difference anyway. What you really need to do is compare that to, do they make a better difference than locking somebody up? That's kind of what's important.
The people who go through them, I think, has some impact on it. But the real problem for me is this, that what you're saying is you're effectively seeking to fail in the criminal justice system. The whole point of the criminal justice system, and we forget this all the time, is to deter people from committing crimes. Once you've arrested someone...
Yeah, you can deter people from from crimes, but like anyone that's grown up in the UK or lived in the UK know that pretty much no one has been deterred from buying weed, buying E's, buying MDMA, or buying coke. Like the only thing the law does is make you be a bit more careful when you're buying it than if it was completely legal. And also, you don't know if you're buying a good pill. You don't know how good the coke is unless you know the person. If it was legal, you get good pills all the fucking time. If I was like the King of England, I'd say legalize pretty much everything. And anyone that sells a pill that's cut with shit, anyone that sells bad coke, they go to jail. You know? Same thing like if someone sells some beer and it's like makes someone blind, they're going to jail, right? Should be the same with drugs. Because people are going to fucking take it anyway.
And once they've appeared in court, it has already failed. And to soften the court system, to make it into a kind of jolly where the judge wears tracksuit bottoms and is nice to the offender. Oh, you should see some of the things that have been going on in this country, the West London.
Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm going to be a bit like classist here, but like, this fella is obviously an academic, right? An intellectual. He's probably gone to Oxford or Cambridge. He probably hangs around in some pretty well-to-do circles in London. Especially, he's a journalist, right? Fucking London journalists are the biggest cokeheads ever, and also a lot of the rich people in London who he'd be hanging out with are. So all of his mates are fucking doing fucking coke all the fucking time. Literally. Especially because he's a journalist. Does you want to lock them up?
Drug court, where the judge, as I said, wore tracksuit bottoms and was macy with the defendants. This gives the impression not of the majesty of justice, but of somebody trying to be nice. Now, actually, it doesn't do anybody any favours to try and be nice to drug takers.
There's nothing wrong.
So the problem
There's a great deal wrong with it, because if you want to stop people becoming drug users, then the best thing to do is to make sure they never start in the first place. And
That's good. He's correct. The best way to avoid the few people, not the few, the percentage that get completely addicted is to stop it in the first place. But how do you do that while maintaining the freedom for other people to take drugs?
an effective deterrent criminal justice system.
The point is you're dealing
would
with people who
actually
have
do
started.
that. Well, yes, you're.
I mean, like, okay, like there's a deterrent system in the UK, and it's never stopped anyone I knew or know breaking the law by buying drugs for themselves. It's not stopped anybody.
Because they've started, because the criminal justice system is so feeble.
Isn't the real problem?
It's feeble from the start.
Baroness Meacher, you can have a contribution here, come on.
Isn't the problem that by the time you get to a drug court, you've already assumed that drug addiction is a crime? Actually, drug addiction is a health problem. So the first thing you've got to do is some preventive work.
If it gets to the point of addiction, I believe you can call it a health problem. But it's pretty much like a kind of psychological problem and a social problem. It has a physical aspect to it, but it's psychological, in my opinion.
Prevent people becoming drug addicts, and that we now know there's good evidence that you can do that. Portugal have switched vast sums of money from prisons to treatment. They have vastly more people in treatment than we do here. They have a much better record than Spain.
You know, there's a lot of people making a lot of money off it being illegal, and I'm not being a crazy conspiracy theorist. In the UK, I'm talking about. How do you think there's so much coke in the UK? It's not coming in people's bags on planes or people's asses. It's coming in huge amounts in fucking containers and shit, right? Like, if you just look at how much coke is being taken, in my opinion, when people get busted for smuggling, it's because they're the ones that shouldn't be doing it. They're not playing by the rules, right? So what I'm trying to say is it's almost like part of it's institutionalized, and makes a lot of money, right? There's not going to be a will to make it illegal.
In Italy, you can deal with this as a health problem instead of waiting till people become really severe addicts, get into the criminal justice.
So what she's saying is right. Just let it fucking come in. Let people take the drugs. Let's make it pure, so no one's getting. Not everyone knows what they're taking. That is clean. They're not gonna get fucking fentanyl and shit and stuff. And you're not gonna be making people criminals for doing what they're gonna do anyway. And yeah, people say tax it. Yeah, tax it a bit, right? Tax it, and then you can use that tax to educate people about how it fucks people up. But I've had no problem getting hold of drugs. I've just seen from other people how it fucks them up, and that's why I've not become a cokehead, because I've seen it fuck people up. You don't need to perhaps educate them, but perhaps you need some kind of service to help people when they get addicted.
System, and then I agree with you.
I'm
Drug
not.
courts can be a little more
Matthew,
helpful.
come on.
I'm not understanding your point. Your point is to stop drugs and alcoholism by just people never starting?
Well, you two believe in this fantasy of addiction in which people lose...
Fantasy of addiction.
A complete fantasy in which
You've
people
been
lose
an addict.
lose all power over themselves and become...
Actually, like, he's calling about the fantasy of addiction and losing control. People kind of do. You can say, yeah, they can stop and they should stop or whatever, and it isn't everybody to just stop. I've seen people just stop, like massive pissheads just stop. Like the guy I was talking about before, who was a heroin addict, and he just stopped when he got the drugs. He's like, I'm gonna fucking die if I keep doing it in here. And actually, it's easier to get out, I think, in jail than anywhere else. And people do just stop. People do the cliche hit rock bottom and just stop. But there is something with addiction where it's like a loop. It's like there's lots of psychological loops people have, you know, like one of them is addiction. They can stop, but it's very hard.
Victims of this terrible, frightening disease.
But right now you're
wait a minute,
quoting...
let me finish. This is what you believe, this terrible, frightening disease after which they cannot stop taking drugs. If you really believe that, then you would presumably think the best thing would be that they never ever came in contact with those drugs.
Of course.
Wouldn't it therefore be wise to deter them from doing so
Yes.
by a stern and effective criminal justice system?
Yeah, if you could stop everyone getting, if you could stop everyone starting some drugs, then yes, you would stop some of those people becoming addicts, obviously. But then we'd live in a society with absolutely no drugs, no alcohol. Gambling is a big thing, hookahs. Yeah, if you can stop everybody getting in contact with an addictive substance or behavior, you will prevent addicts. But do you want to live in society like that? Because most people can have a drink now and again. They can do a bit of coke now and again. They can smoke some weed now and again, you know. They can go to the casino now and again. They can go to a hookah now and again.
System which actually persuaded them it was unwise to take the drugs in the first place.
When do I get to
Simple
speak?
point,
I'm
right?
dying to speak.
If you really believe in it, you'd agree with
When
me.
can I speak?
Speak.
Okay, so...
Didn't come here to be quiet.
Well, neither did I.
No,
I didn't come here to listen to ludicrous things like...
Can I just say, like, Matthew Perry's hair looks pretty good here. I think this is the best I've seen his hair.
that either.
Well,
So
you tell me why it's ludicrous if you're so clever.
I will.
Just look.
The American Medical Association diagnosed it a disease in 1976. So you're saying that that's incorrect?
Look, people.
Are you saying that that's
the medical
incorrect?
profession is constantly doing extraordinary things. The American Psychiatric Association said for years that homosexuality was
Peter,
a
the
disease.
key thing is...
They were wrong.
He has a point here, like, there's a word, pathologize, like they make aspects of human nature, diseases and disorders all the time in order to then give a treatment or a drug. Like, okay, you're an addict, now you need this drug, you know. You're homosexual, now you need Prozac, something. Hitchens has a point.
Kinds of things are said by
Peter,
medical
the
professionals
key thing
which
is
turn
we've
out to be
had
not
this
true.
policy
What's
for
the objective
50,
evidence?
50 years. We've had this policy
My life.
of
My life is the
of
objective
treating
evidence.
addiction as a crime. 50 years.
No, we
and we
haven't.
now know that it doesn't work. It doesn't work anywhere in the world.
It doesn't work. That's absolutely correct. Although, in countries I've been in where it's like super, super illegal to do drugs, people don't do them as much. We're talking like where you get like super harsh punishments, like very harsh punishments that would not fit in with the Western philosophy, right? In those countries, like there is a lot less usage, but people still use them.
Increasingly in the US, Uruguay, and elsewhere, and in Europe,
Finish your
things
point,
are changing.
My life is, I'm a drug addict. I'm a person that if I have a drink, I can't stop. And so
That's just called, in England, that's just called being a lad, right? That's just called being a character.
it would be following your ideology that I'm choosing to do that.
I'm joking. Let's go back. Hang on.
Can't stop. And so I'm a person that if I have a drink, I can't stop.
I'm pretty much like that. And I've had some friends like that, like, that are worse than me. Like, the most polite, well-behaved, work ethic people. And they'll go out for, like, one beer, and then you won't see them the next day, and they've gone, like, fucking 200 kilometers away to another city, and been drinking all night, doing all kinds of shit, fucking whoring and everything, and they just like don't turn up the next day, and but these are like very nice, well-behaved people normally. So yeah, it is a thing.
And so it would be following your ideology that I'm choosing to do that. That I'm choosing.
That's exactly not my ideology, it is my belief. Yes, you do choose.
It is, and
You
it's,
have a
and it's a
choice.
belief that you wrote in your book, correct?
You have a choice over
Would-
whether you drink or not. You have a choice over.
But your book is the only book in modern times that has this ideology.
Yeah.
So doesn't that teach you something?
Well, it's quite often unfashionable ideas are unfashionable because they're unpopular with,
Or wrong.
with influential people. It doesn't necessarily bother me. You tell me what the objective diagnosis is to establish the existence of addiction in the human body.
It's an allergy.
Like he just said, like addiction in the human body. Is that not like framing the question a little bit? Like, as far as I'm concerned, there might be some physical, what do you call it, effects of addiction, but addiction is very much psychological, man. It's very much in the mind, right? Doesn't make it not real, you know? Like, is depression real? It's in the mind. Is anxiety real? It's in the mind. Is schizophrenia real? It's in the mind, right? Addiction is in the mind. He's framed this whole question by, what does science say about addiction in the body? Let's just go back, but that's not what I think most people think addiction is. I mean, yeah, coming off drugs or drink or anything, even weed can have physical effects, right? But I don't think that's what we think about when we think about addiction, right?
Quite often unfashionable ideas are unfashionable because they are unpopular
Or wrong.
with influential people. It doesn't necessarily bother me. You tell me what the objective diagnosis is to establish the existence of addiction in the human body.
It's an allergy of the body, and it's an.
See, like, and Matthew Perry made the big fucking mistake of falling for his leading question. If I was Matthew Perry, I'd say, why are you even asking about it being an objective thing about the body? Like, it's about people's psychology and behavior. And ask them, do you believe in, like, behavioral psychology? You can, like, do a study on X number of junkies and take 100 junkies, and how many will OD in the next however long, how many will die, how many will do crime. That's like a provable thing. It's not like a physiology thing. So Matthew Perry fucked up by falling into his trap, but I guess Peter Hitchens is like a academic and Matthew Perry is an actor.
Doesn't necessarily bother me. You tell me what the objective diagnosis is to establish the existence of addiction in the human body.
It's an allergy of the body, and it's an...
Allergies of what?
Did you see that? Like, the second he even answered it, Peter Hitchens was like, I fucking got you. Let's look again.
Allergy of the body, and it's an...
There you go.
We're
Peter
allergies
Hitchens
of
knows he's
what?
got him.
we're supposed to be grown men here, and you're making faces like the
No,
guy
no, I
who's
just-
like
I
the
just-
guy who's like the guy who's wearing the pants that you were talking about earlier. I'm expecting you to come out.
See, like, someone like Peter Hitchens is obviously a very clever man. He's a journalist. Never trust a journalist, by the way. Never speak to a journalist, ever. I'll do a whole other video on that. Never, ever speak to a journalist under any circumstances. But can you imagine, like, how many debate society debates Peter Hitchens has had? How good he is at debating and catching people out and shit. Here we've got Matthew Perry, pretty much an addict actor, against Peter Hitchens in a debate. It's kind of like, it's just not fair, you know?
That I'm choosing.
That's exactly not my ideology, it is my belief. Yes, you do choose.
It is, and
You
it's,
have a
and it's
choice.
a belief that you wrote it. I'm a person that if I have a drink, I can't stop. And so it would be following your ideology that
I
I'm
wanna go
choosing
for a
to do
drink with
that.
him.
That I'm choosing.
That's exactly not my ideology, it is my belief. Yes, you do choose.
It is, and
You
it's,
have a
and it's
choice.
a belief that you wrote in your book, correct?
You have a choice over
Would-
whether you drink or not. You have a choice over.
But your book is the only book.
You have a choice, yes. The choice can be corrupted psychologically by your demons, one of which being addiction.
In modern times that has this ideology. So doesn't that teach you something?
Well, it's quite often unfashionable ideas are unfashionable because they are unpopular
Or wrong.
with influential people. Doesn't necessarily bother me. You tell me what the objective diagnosis is to establish the existence of addiction in the human body.
It's an allergy of the body, and it's an...
An allergy of the body, what?
Allergies of what?
We're supposed to be grown men here, and you're making faces like the
No,
guy
no, I
who's
just-
like
I
the guy
just-
who's like the guy who's wearing the pants that you were talking about earlier. I'm expecting you to come out in the pants in a minute. It's a objection. It's an obsession of your mind and an allergy of your body. So this is what happens to me. I start thinking about alcohol. I can't stop. I can't stop thinking about it.
There is this idea about like a kind of cellular addiction, and I believe it, but it's still your mind that makes a decision. For instance, okay, if your body is used to always having alcohol, the cells in all your body, I think, will probably adapt to having that, right? And when they don't have it, they're going to be uncomfortable. The chemistry in your entire cells will be a little bit off. And they may, in a way, influence your mind to want to take what they're used to having, right? Same, I think, with like people who love drama, you know, people who like love having drama in their lives all the fucking time, right? It's like, I think their body, their cells get addicted to the hormones, adapt to always having the drama. And when there's no drama for a while, yes, psychologically that these people might want drama, but also the cells in their body are now a little bit unbalanced and can influence the mind to create some drama, to create those hormones and whatever you call it, like adrenaline, whatever you want to call it, to get the cells back to what they're used to, you know. So he's a little bit right. Well, I don't think that's what he means, but he's a little bit right.
It's in a minute. It's a objection. It's an obsession of your mind and an allergy of your body. So this is what happens to me. I start thinking about alcohol. I can't stop. I can't stop thinking about it.
And what's the objective physical proof of this inability to stop?
there's considerable proof this is partly a genetic problem, isn't it?
Your argument is that
Partly
it's
genetic.
willpower, Peter.
Of course it's willpower. People,
No,
all
it's
the
not
people,
willpower.
People constantly stop both drinking and taking drugs.
It is willpower, but people overestimate willpower.
You're just
if
a
willpower
person
were
who's
not
talking
involved,
who's wrong.
If willpower were not
It's an
involved, then how would
effort
that
of
happen?
will on your part not to do it now, isn't it?
I'm in control of the first drink. And so I do all these things to protect myself from not having the first drink.
Sure.
But
That
once
is
I
also
have
the
that
case,
drink, the allergy of the body.
See, that's a bit of a contradiction. He's saying, like, I just think about alcohol, I think about alcohol, I think about alcohol, and I'm in control of having the first drink. No, like, if you got a loop in your mind of, like, obsession, I need to drink, or thinking about alcohol, thinking about it, and then you go to 7-Eleven to buy a fucking cheeseburger or something, and you see a beer, then that loop that he's got can take control. Like, I call it a loop. I could also call it a demon. Maybe I'll do another video on this, but he's kind of contradicting himself by saying, I've got control over having the first drink. He's got more control over having the first drink, but he doesn't have complete control over having the first drink, or he would never have the first drink, would he?
Body kicks in. This is all.
To do it now, isn't it?
I'm in control of the first drink. And so I do all these things to protect myself from not having the first drink.
Sure.
But
That is
once I
also
have
the
that
case,
drink, the allergy of the body kicks in. This is all documented alcoholism proof. Then I can't stop after that.
Our problem with
Allergies of what?
Peter.
I mean, I'm
is
allergic to
respect-
aspirin, but it doesn't mean I
No,
have
but
to
Peter,
drink.
but you have to look at the evidence, Peter.
That is
I mean,
it.
What is this? What is this allergy? It's
an allergy of your body.
It's just.
Not that your aspirin point wasn't.
pseudoscience
Not that your aspirin
and
point
babble.
wasn't genius.
Well, okay, I don't know. Maybe there is some like different physiology bell curve amongst alcoholics and non-alcoholics. But I think generally, from someone who, speaking here, who can avoid a first drink, but yeah, once I've had like a few drinks, I'm like, fucking let's go, man. And I think that's more just fuck it. Obviously your perception changes when you've had a few drinks, and you're like, fuck it, let's go. I'm not sure if it's an allergy of the body. I think it's a malady of the mind or the spirit.
Your argument is that it's
Genetic.
willpower, Peter.
Of course, it's willpower. People,
No,
all
it's
the
not
people,
willpower.
People constantly stop both drinking and taking drugs.
You're just
If
a
willpower
person
were
who's
not
talking
involved,
who's wrong.
If willpower were not
It's an
involved, then how would
effort
that
of will
happen?
on your part not to do it now, isn't it?
I'm in control of the first drink. And so I do all these things to protect myself from not having the first drink.
Sure.
But
That is
once I
also
have
the
that
case,
drink, the allergy of the body kicks in. This is all documented alcoholism proof. Then I can't stop after that.
Our problem
Allergies
with
of what?
Peter.
I mean, I'm
you
allergic
just
to
don't want to
aspirin, but it
stop.
doesn't mean I
No,
have
but
to
Peter,
drink.
Your perception
but you
has
have to
changed.
look at the evidence, Peter.
That is
I mean,
it.
What is this? What is this allergy?
It's an allergy of your body.
It's just.
Not that your aspirin point wasn't.
pseudoscience
Not that your aspirin
and
point
babble.
wasn't genius, but you don't know what you're.
Maybe the allergy response he's talking is about how alcohol affects you. Like, I notice other people will drink alcohol. They'll have a few beers, they'll get more and more sleepy, they might even pass out, right? Maybe I've got this allergy he's talking about. I don't think it's an allergy, but when I drink, I get more energy, I get more awake. I'm the kind of person, especially when I used to play, like I'll be the guy who's still up fucking 7 in the morning. Let's go, keep partying, right? This is like before other things like coke and shit. So it does have a different effect on different people. I'm not the kind of person that's going to pass out. I'm the kind of person that's just going to keep going. So it kind of has like a stimulant effect on me. That's not an allergy. That's just having a different effect
talking about.
That's right. You've got to look at countries that have done
I
it
do.
differently.
No, you don't.
And that
You
have
can't
succeeded.
come up with... I
Sorry.
asked him to come up with an objective, diagnosis
I did.
of the presence
Myself.
of this force in his body.
We're not
That's not
getting
an
anywhere.
objective diagnosis. Yourself is the reverse of objective.
But he's
Myself
telling us
and
what
10
his-
million other alcoholics and addicts across America and across the world are having these problems.
But people have problems with drugs and drink. People like taking them and they don't want to stop taking them. But it doesn't mean they have a disease that needs to be treated.
So the American Medical Association is wrong in your opinion?
If the American Association says...
Yeah, you're right. They don't have a disease that needs to be treated in the classical sense of like a disease. But maybe they have like a spiritual or psychological issue that they need to deal with. That I would say is a possibility. If drinking all the time is fucking your life up, which it generally, drinking or doing coke all the time, and I even think like smoking weed all the time for a lot of people can fuck their lives up too. Then yeah, maybe there's something they need to address, but it's probably not like physical.
Is the disease? Yes, of course they're wrong. It is. There is
So
an
all these
immense
doctors
fashion
are
at
wrong.
the moment.
But you're right.
There's an immense fashion at the moment.
But you're right.
There's immense fashion.
Like Peter Hitchens, right? He might be like. I've just seen like journalists, and I know a journalist in London, right? And I've met some rich people, and they are fucking cokeheads, man. And they drink a lot. I'm just wondering, is Peter Hitchens the only guy that hangs out with these people that doesn't do coke and fucking drink loads? He probably is. But he will know that it's not just like some people or these, I don't know, few people who take drugs that are like the enemy of society. He will know that it's fucking everybody who's doing it. Everyone. Especially in England. Everyone.
At the moment, for simply
Almost everybody.
dismissing the ability of people to take control over their own lives and to make excuses for them. We have, far from 50 years, been treating alleged addiction as a disease, as a crime. We've been treating it as a disease, and the result is we have many, many more drug users than we did when this policy started.
The
Go
medical
ahead.
evidence shows that addiction is in part a genetic problem and in part an environmental one. If you've got parents with an addiction, you then have, and if you then have abuse, sexual abuse, child abuse, you're brought up in a children's home, lots of foster parents, you've got this genetic problem anyway. The evidence is very, very clear. You have a health problem. And countries that have addressed...
I think what you're talking about, other than the genetic thing, is self-medication.
this and dealt with it as a health problem are doing a lot better than we are. We can save money.
See my video on self-medication on my channel.
We can reduce crime. We can get people better, stop having them on benefits. We can have them paying taxes. If we want to save money and help people, then we know how to do it.
Since we've followed your policies, more and more people have been taking dangerous and damaging drugs.
Sadly,
You are
we don't.
making...
Since we've ceased treating drug possession as a crime and have more or less ceased either arresting or prosecuting people possessing drugs. Since we have classified drug takers as people with a medical problem, we have had more and more of all of
Matthew,
them.
let me ask
Can
you
that
this,
possibly be right?
Can I
Which is
just
slightly
can I
related.
just give him one quick put down?
If you want to, you go ahead.
You're
Yeah.
making a point that is as ludicrous as saying that Peter Pan was real.
Well, you keep saying that, but you cannot come up with an objective definition of the thing which...
I was going to produce an argument that's maybe useful to you, Pete, which is this: that isn't the point about drug courts that that people have to be compelled to get?
Like Peter Hitchens, I believe, is the same person who has said that ideologies are are bad for people's lives. Ideologies are bad for society. Ideologies, right? So can't he see that you don't need to have some physical proof that addiction is bad? It can be in the mind. I don't know. He just confuses me. His brother was kind of cooler, you know. Rest in
People
peace.
have been taking dangerous and damaging drugs.
Sadly,
You are
we don't.
making...
Since we've ceased treating drug possession as a crime and have more or less ceased either arresting or prosecuting people possessing drugs. Since we have classified drug takers as people with a medical problem, we have had more and more of all of them.
Let me ask
Can
you
that
this,
possibly be right?
Can I
Which is
just
slightly
can I
related.
just give him one quick put down?
If you want to, you go ahead.
You're
Yeah.
making a point that is as ludicrous as saying that Peter Pan was real.
Well, you keep saying that, but you cannot come up with an objective definition of the thing which
I was going to produce an argument that may be useful to you, Peter, which is this: that isn't the point about drug courts that that people have to be compelled to get clean, and that in itself tells you something.
Yes.
They don't have to be compelled.
Well, they have to be compelled. You have to have
Well,
the
if
will.
you
You have
want
to
to
have,
do it-
you have to have the
No.
willingness to change.
Yes.
Drug courts don't do much better than voluntary treatment. Drug courts do fairly much the same.
That's not true either. It's not as crazy as what he's saying, but it's not true either.
Well, there is research evidence to show that you do as well, roughly, with voluntary treatment as you do in drug courts. But actually,
But they've got to want to do it.
they have, and to be well enough to do it,
And
to
that is an
reach
act
a
of will.
stage. But they've got to have reached a stage, have sufficient support.
I'm not going to throw any shade on Jeremy Paxman, who's like the host here. But I'd say, like, if I had to be a betting man, I would bet like fucking 100 grand that he fucking loves blow.
Sufficient treatment. No, this is very complicated.
And
It's
they have
not
to be
just a
cleaned
simple,
up.
simple
They have
thing.
to be
It's just
sober.
willpower. It's much more complicated.
They have to be
than that.
sober to make that decision. They can't be. They can't be intoxicated to make that
How is
decision.
it that people ever cease to be addicts if what you say is true?
Well, Santa.
It's terribly clever, but this is a very serious subject, and you treat it with immense levity.
No,
How
no.
is it that if what you say,
you're the one
what
that's
you
treating
say,
it
the
with
policy
levity.
which you so smugly and loftily advocate?
Like, he's correct. Like, Matthew Perry is being smug. But can we just look at a moment at Peter Hitchen? He is the definition of smugness, right? Like, full respect to him, but his entire aura is smug.
Levity.
No,
How
no.
is it that if what you say,
you're the one
what
that's
you
treating
say,
it
the
with
policy
levity.
which you so smugly and loftily advocate, this policy which has led to disaster in Western countries for decades. How is it that if what you say
How
is
is the
true,
policy led to disaster?
how is it that people, because it has led to a laxness in the law which has meant many more people taking the terrible risk of taking the drugs which you say are addictive and we all agree are damaging?
That is simply not true, and we know it, and the research shows it.
Yeah.
Quite simple. All you've got to do, Peter, is a bit of reading of the evidence, and you will
Read
find
something other than your
Yeah.
book.
Okay, all right, that's enough. Thank you.
You cannot argue seriously.
Hang on, I saw something weird there.
How is it that people, because it has led to a laxness in the law which has meant many more people taking the terrible risk of taking the drugs which you say are addictive and we all agree are damaging?
that is simply not true, and we know it.
Yeah, you see, like, above Jeremy Paxman, sorry, we got like those 3 stripes. They look very like that energy drink. The just to make this this video like a little bit weird. So, like, at the end, right? We're at the end of the video now. Jeremy Paxman. Above, we've got those 3 slashes. They look very like that energy drink. What, I can't remember the fucking name of it. It's like, but yeah, it's like the 666 shit.
And the research shows it.
Yeah.
Quite simple. All you've got to do, Peter, is a bit of reading of the evidence, and you will
Read
find
something other than your
Yeah.
book.
Okay, all right, that's enough. Thank you.
That was pretty funny, to be fair. Like,
You cannot argue seriously.
so yeah, that's my reaction to Matthew Perry debates Peter Hitchens on drug courts and addiction. If I was the king, I'd pretty much legalize everything. Probably not meth, but more or less everything else. Because people are gonna fucking take it anyway. And we don't need the state to be our daddy. But the other thing is, addiction does fuck people up, and certain drugs can catch people out. Like, I've seen a friend of mine, like, he would never really smoke weed with us, would go to the bar, he'd have like 1 beer, he loved fucking soccer, really into like soccer practice, fitness. He's kind of like that guy on a Train Spotting, you know, pretty much exactly. And like one day I come back from work, having a party, and it's like suddenly there's loads of coke everywhere and shit for the first time I'd seen. It's like, oh shit, okay, everyone's doing coke here, what the fuck? And I go into the kitchen and well, everyone's doing coke and shit, and then I go into the kitchen to get something because my house or whatever to eat or whatever, and it's like, holy shit, like here's my mate who doesn't do anything, and he's got like the biggest pile of coke, and he's like protecting it like a homeless man with his food, and he just was railing way more coke than everyone else, and I was just like, bro, this is gonna be a problem for you, man. Like, and it became a big problem for him. So like all the other people never became a problem for them. For him, he got to that point where, you know, like you're stealing money off your family for it and shit, you know. So yeah, don't do drugs, kids.